Long before the rise of organized religion, the Celts worshipped in forests, rivers, and stone circles. Their gods were not distant figures in the sky, but spirits of trees, animals, wind, and flame. The Druidic path was not just a belief. It was a way of being, a rhythm woven into every cycle of nature and life. This video explores the world of Celtic paganism, the myths, the rites, and the spiritual worldview rooted in nature itself. But more than that, we ask, why are so many people turning back to these ancient ways now? What calls us to the old paths in an age dominated by steel, screens, and speed? Could the sacred groves of the past be speaking again in the language of climate, collapse, and renewal? If you feel the pull of something older than books and churches, stay with us. Perhaps it's not a call to return, but to remember. To understand Celtic paganism, we must first understand the Celts themselves. Far from a single unified group, the Celts were a tapestry of tribes spread across what is now Ireland, Britain, France, Spain, and Central Europe. They shared language roots, artistic styles, and spiritual traditions. But each clan carried its own sacred variations. Their stories weren't written in scrolls, but sung in smoky halls. Their history was tattooed into their geography. Rivers weren't just water, they were lineage. Mountains weren't just land, they were guardians. It's no wonder they saw divinity everywhere. Poets were not entertainers, but keepers of memory. Land wasn't just territory, it was spirit. A hill had a name, a stream had a guardian, and every grove whispered a myth. These were not metaphors. These were truths. Unlike empires that wrote their stories in stone, the Celts relied on oral tradition. Their truths lived in people, not parchment. Their knowledge wasn't meant to be archived. It was meant to be spoken, sung, and breathed into new life each generation. It is precisely this connection between word, earth, and spirit that formed the foundation of Celtic paganism. Not just a religion, a way of seeing. At the heart of this world stood the Druids. More than priests, they were judges, advisors, healers, astronomers, and lore keepers. Trained for years, some say decades, they held power not by crown or blade, but through wisdom and presence. Druids officiated rituals in sacred groves, where trees were not just plants, but portals. Oak, ash, and you held deep significance. Mistletoe harvested under moonlight was believed to hold divine properties. Every rite, whether invoking fertility, honoring death, or calling for justice, took place with nature as a witness. Fire festivals like Beltane and Samhain marked the turning of the year, times when the veil between worlds grew thin. These weren't just dates. They were cosmic alignments, liminal moments when the sacred touched the ordinary. Druids forbade writing down their teachings. Memory itself was sacred. To know was to carry, to become, to embody. This made their world harder to conquer and harder to erase. They formed the living spine of Celtic paganism. And when they were hunted, the spine was fractured, but not broken. The Celtic pantheon was vast, regional, and deeply tied to nature. Rather than one all-powerful god, the Celts revered many deities, each tied to a place, force, or concept. The river goddesses of Bone and Danu, the thunderous Luff, the battle-hardened Morgan, the triple goddess Brigid, later reimagined as a saint. And beyond these gods was something stranger still, the otherworld, not a place of punishment or reward, but a parallel realm of beauty, wisdom, and mystery, sometimes reached through water, mist, or music. Time worked differently there. One day could be a century. A meal could be a prophecy. Creatures from this realm, fairies, shapeshifters, omens, blurred every line. Were they gods, spirits, ancestors? The answer was yes. Or maybe don't ask, just respect. Even now, in rural tales and twilight encounters, these beings echo. And perhaps, just perhaps, they never left. Then came the Empire. Rome viewed the Druids not just as religious leaders, but as threats. They organized resistance. They unified tribes. And so, one by one, the groves were burned, the altars smashed, the oak forest cut down not for lumber, but for silence. With the spread of Christianity, a subtler campaign began. Old gods were turned into devils. Festivals were rebranded. Sacred wells became fonts for saints. Samhain became All Hallows Eve, and Druid became a synonym for sorcerer. And yet, the spirit persisted. In folk songs, superstitions, and place names, the old ways survived. Women who whispered charms, men who followed the stars, children who saw things in the mist. The forest whispered still. Centuries later, the forest stirred again. The 19th century saw a surge of interest in folklore, nationalism, and myth. Artists painted druids with reverence. Poets invoked ancient gods. Scholars and mystics began piecing together the old beliefs. Some romanticized, others reconstructed. Modern Druidic orders emerged. Some sought spiritual truth. Others searched for identity in a rootless age. Neopaganism embraced Celtic myth as both heritage and healing. In a world of concrete and pixels, many yearned for something older, something breathing. But this wasn't nostalgia. It was reconnection, a way to reclaim wonder in a disenchanted world, a way to find the sacred in the soil, not the sky. Celtic paganism was never just about belief. It was, and is, about belonging. As the planet warms and forests fall, ancient wisdom feels urgent again. The Celtic view saw nature as kin, not resource. The year was a cycle, not a race. The land wasn't owned, it was honored. In this worldview, sustainability isn't modern. It's ancestral. Festivals followed the sun and moon. Life followed the harvest. Death was not an end, but a return. The gods didn't ask for conquest. They asked for respect. Today, many climate activists, eco-spiritualists, and even scientists are revisiting these perspectives. Could ancient values guide modern survival? Could reverence heal what technology fractured? Maybe the answer isn't new. Maybe it's buried beneath centuries of ash, waiting. In books, in circles, in forests, the old faith stirs again. Celtic paganism today isn't about reenactment. It's about rerouting. In an age of collapse, people seek stories that connect, that heal, that remember. Art, music, and ritual return to the grove. People gather not in temples, but beneath trees. They light fires not just for warmth, but for memory. Children learn the names of rivers. Adults relearn the shape of silence. And somewhere between myth and modernity, the forest breathes again. Perhaps the groves never forgot us. Perhaps they were waiting. And now, step by step, we return.